Hello again, folks. This is another quick and dirty Java guide. Today we're going to be talking about arithmetic operators. As a quick review from the lesson involving data types and variables, I want to remind you there are two categories of data types. They are the primitive types and the reference types. So my goal in this series is to try to help you memorize certain facts about Java, but also be able to apply them. So I want you to continually remind yourself and not forget the older stuff that you learned. So assuming that you have watched the video on data types and variables, you did discover that there were two major categories, the primitive types, of which there are 8, and then reference types, which are different than the primitive types. The primitive types hold their values directly, and the reference types hold memory addresses. And then at those memory addresses you will find what we call objects, and then the objects are the quote values of interest that we want to discuss or want to utilize. So this lesson is going to focus on arithmetic operators. So we're going to create another project today, again a Java application, and I'm making sure we don't have create main class checked. I don't like it creating one for me, and I'm putting it in a working directory that I like. So we're going to call this QND arithmetic. QND arithmetic. There we go. And again, we'll use the default package. Right click and go to Java class, new Java class, and we'll call it Arithmetic Fun. And I'm going to delete the extra comments that were put there. As a note of something we could do, we could actually modify some of the behavior of NetBeans. If I go to Tools and Options, Fonts and Colors, or size of the font and format, rather than behavior. I said behavior. We're going to make this maybe size 18 and then apply that. Make the font a little bit bigger so you can see it a little bit better. But again, that's another feature you might be interested in. Again, Tools, Options, and then go to Fonts and Colors, and you can modify the font that's used, the size, etc. So again, we've got our class Arithmetic Fun. And one thing to note is that in Java, essentially anything that's going to be created is going to live inside of a class. Now we also have things called interfaces and a couple other things that we might deal with, but classes are really the fundamental and the essentials of Java. So in public class Arithmetic Fun, or Arithmetic Fun, we're going to create our main method again, which is our starting point, public static void main. It takes it's capitalized S for those coming from, say, C++. You might not be used to doing a capital S. You have to make sure that you use a capital S because it won't compile if you use a lowercase s. And args is a traditional name that we give the arguments that are brought in as an array, passed in as an array. But you could really call args anything. So you could call it sausage, no one cares. See, it still compiles. But args are what we will leave it in. One thing to note is that this is what we call a string array. We will talk about arrays in another lecture. But string is capitalized. You might want to ask yourself, is string one of the primitives that we talked about before? And the answer is no. Because remember, the 8 primitives are byte, short, int, long. That's 4 of them. Byte, short, int, long. Then float, double, and char boolean. Anything that's not one of those is a reference type. Therefore, strings are not a primitive type in Java. They are a reference type. They hold the memory address, not the actual string value itself. The string value is held in what we call an object. And again, that's the details of that is later on. You don't need to memorize all the details, but do memorize the 8 primitive types. I would recommend trying to memorize their sizes, as are in the previous video on data types and variables. And then you'll get better and better as you go along. The more you try to memorize, the more you try to practice as well. So today we're going to talk about the arithmetic types, and specifically, or arithmetic operators rather, arithmetic operators. And these include plus, minus, or the addition operator, subtraction operator. I guess I'll put them on different lines here. subtraction, multiplication, division. Here, we'll do this so it doesn't get confusing, because division could be confusing because of the comment. We could also use a multi-line comment. That's another option, which I guess I'll do just to show you. Okay, we're going to, oops, I guess it doesn't like that. Okay, we'll do that. So this is called a multi-line comment. If you were not familiar with this before, hopefully you are now. You put a /* and then * / to end it. Okay, so anything inside these two will be considered part of a comment. You don't have to put double / in front of every one. So this plus sign, when used with numeric values, is called the addition operator. Okay, if used with strings, it's called concatenation. Okay, so if used with strings, this is called the concatenation operator. The minus sign is called the subtraction operator. The star or asterisk is the multiplication operator. The / is the division operator. And then this one down here might be a little confusing if you're not familiar with other programming languages or with Java at all. This % sign, which is Shift 5 on standard US keyboard, is called the Modulus Operator. Okay, so the division operator returns quotient. The Modulus Operator returns remainder. Okay, or also called residue if you're a dirty old mathematician. So we've got all these comments in here to help you. I will upload the code also later to my website and try to provide some links as I go through and clean up some of the description. But to give us an idea of what we can do with this, let's create two variables. So I'm going to say integer a is 5, integer b is 12. In fact, we'll make 3. Integer result, I'll just declare that. So here you'll notice that I can perform declaration and initialization on the same line. This right here is just a declaration for result. So you could do them on the same line, just make sure you end them with a semicolon, otherwise it will not compile. If I take one of these semicolons out, you're going to end up with an underline in red, and if you hover over it, it'll say semicolon expected. Okay. In NetBeans, it's got a nice feature where if you hold down the Alt key and hit Enter, it will tell you what you might want to do. It wasn't sure what the problem was 100%, so it gives you a proposed solution. Now, result, if I try to use result at this point, notice if I try to print out result, it's actually going to cause a problem. It'll give me an error. It'll say variable result might not have been initialized. Now, some programming languages, such as if you're coming from C++ or C, they will print whatever garbage was living in the memory address that this integer was given. It won't usually even ask questions. Sometimes it gives you a warning, but most of these, a lot of these languages, especially in older IDEs, older compilers, will not even complain. They could crash at runtime, it could freeze, or it could just print out what we call garbage data. Okay, because we didn't give this thing a value. Java prevents that. Okay, you'll notice that Java is saying variable result might not have been initialized. So if it is a local variable inside of a method, okay, this is to distinguish it from what we'll talk about later called fields. But if it's a local variable inside of here, you have to give it some sort of value to start. So in here, you'll notice that I'm using an arithmetic operation in order to provide a value for result. If we focus just on a plus b, okay, then a and or the plus sign is called an operator, specifically the addition operator. But then we also have a and b, which are called operands. Okay, operands, O-P-E-R-A-N-D-S, operands. So I would say that this plus symbol here is an addition operator, which is one of the arithmetic operators, and it takes two operands. A is one of its operands, and B is another. Now in this particular case, I could have two variables. I could have two literals, so I could just literally write 2 plus 7. I could put A plus 7 or 6 plus B, so you can have any combination. Okay, so if I run it right now, you'll notice that it says result is 17. If I continue and I want to do slightly more complicated things with my code here, I could say result is equal to A modulus B. So let's see, well, actually let's do B modulus A. That'll give us a kind of a nicer little look at this, just to see what modulus does. So if I run this, it says, oops, sorry, I guess I gotta put another one here, right? So result of mod, okay. There we go, let's do it again. Live television, folks. Result of mod is 2. So you might ask yourself, well, why is it 2? Okay, modulus, of all of these, modulus is probably possibly the most foreign to you, especially if you're not coming from another language. So why is B mod A2 equal to 2? Well, if you think about it, you have to ask yourself, what is the remainder of an integer division problem? If we have 12, which is our B, modulus 5, okay? So basically, 12 divided by 5 is equal to 2, okay? The quotient. But remainder is also 2 in this case. We could also have another integer, C. Let's say that that is 6. Now let's say result now is equal to B modulus C. Okay, so in this case, we know that 12 divided by 6 is 2. That's the quotient, okay? But remainder is 0 because there's nothing left. So we should get result of mod B mod C. Okay, we should get a 0. Let's see if that's the case. And it is indeed the case. So that's how the modulus works. Another thing you need to know, or you should know, we'll do another file here. I'm going to make one called compound arithmetic fun. Okay, so I created a new file, compound arithmetic fun. I'm deleting all the extra comments. I'm going to create another main here. And these are the compound assignment operators. Okay, so we have, I guess I'll do the same thing with our friend, the multi-line comment. We have plus equals, we have minus equals, multiply equals, divide equals, and modulus equals. These are the compound assignment operators. These are really just what we call syntactic sugar in a programming language. They really aren't 100% necessary, but they do make things a little bit easier. You also have the we'll talk about the increment and decrement operators also. So this one's a little bit, we have plus plus and minus minus. So we'll talk about those in a second as well. So plus equals is equivalent. So if I say A plus equals B, that's the same as saying A equals A plus B. If I say A minus equals B, that's the same as saying A equals A minus B. If I say A times equals or multiply equals B, that's the same as saying A equals A times B. If I say A divided equals B, that's the same as saying A equals A divided by B. And finally, as expected, a compound modulus equals B. That's the same as saying A equals A modulus B. So it's basically a shortcut. Instead of having to write this with several keystrokes, we can get away with just this. This is a shortcut. And plus plus, if I say a plus plus, that's the same as a equals a plus 1. You can also put plus plus a. That's called the prefix increment operator. Now there are some subtle differences, but we will not talk about them just yet because they'll just confuse some of the issues. So this is the same thing here, a minus 1. So we've got all this fun to work with, so let's try something here. We'll say int a equals, well actually we'll give them some names. So we'll say my int 1 equals 100, my int 2 equals 25, and then int result. Okay, result equals 20 or 200. We'll just say that, we'll just show you that you can do this on multiple lines. You don't have to. And we're going to say this. We're going to say result plus equals my int 1. And then result plus times equals 2. So let's ask ourselves, what is the result here? So if result is currently 200, and I say plus equals my int 1, what does that do? Recall that that would be result, since plus equals basically expands it to adding whatever on the right to yourself and then storing it back in yourself. Then we would say that result equals result plus my int 1. So by this point, it's 200 plus 100, which is 300. Now at this point, we say result multiply equals, so that's the same as result equals result times 2, and then that is 300, because remember the value has changed since the last time. 300 times 2, that's 600. So let's make sure that this works the way we expect. So we'll say result after compound assignment. We'll say result, and then we're going to do something else. We're going to say result plus plus, and then plus plus result, and then do it again. So say now result after increment op is result. So this result should be 600. Now after this should take it to 601, and then this should take it to 602. Let's run that one, make sure we're running the correct one. And as we expect, we have result after the compound assignment is 600, result after increment operator is 602. So that's exactly what we expected. And that's pretty much what I have for you in this particular segment. Again, memorize the 8 primitive types, and do know that there are 2 categories of data types, the primitives, of which there are 8, of course, and then the reference types. And I would recommend to you, to succeed in Java, that you memorize the arithmetic operators and also their compound counterparts. It's basically just the arithmetic operators with an equals at the end, and figure out what they do, play around with those values. And then you also have the increment and decrement operators as well. So that's all I have for you this week, and good luck in your continuing journey in Java. See you next time.